welcome to Simply Painting in Watercolour. I'm Frank Clarke, and in this lesson we're going to paint a study in pink. But before we do, once again, let's quickly talk about the materials. Well, we've got very little paint this time because it's a study in pink. So we've got 4 tubes. We've got burnt umber, alizarin crimson, lemon yellow and raw sienna. That's all. We have our 2 brushes, our big brush and our small brush. We have our water, our cloths and our palette or tray. Now let me talk to you for a moment about, if you remember, earlier in the series we painted a forest scene. Just in case you haven't, let me show it to you. It was a moonlight scene. There's a moon and there's a tree and there's some mountains, etc. Okay, let me show you how you can paint a different picture which is almost the same. So let's look at what I mean. Now, we've got a pink picture, which I call it a study in pink. It's quite similar to our other one that I've already shown you. There may be 2 trees rather than 1, but it is totally different because it's pink, isn't it? So let's see how we do that. Okay, first thing is our paper. And our paper, once again, is £140 watercolour paper. And it measures 10 by 14, and again it's in landscape. All right, as I told you before, mine is slightly larger sheet because I might like to doodle on it. All right, without further ado, let's put out the paint and get started on this thing. So the first colour, referring back to our picture again, is, as I said, pink. So the first element of pink is your alizarin crimson. And the second one is raw sienna. They're the first 2. And let's put them out first. And having done that, have some more fun. Remember that? Horizon, sky, middle and foreground. The 4 elements of Simply Painting. Okay, let's first of all then draw the horizon line. And as usual, we got our ruler and our pencil and we got ourselves about, this time it's quite low, I'd say about 1/3 of the way up. And draw a line across. That's all there's to it. Having done that then, let's quickly go back to our picture again and have a look. Well, it's a nice warm scene, isn't it? And the sky is pretty plain. Plain, okay, let's do that. So the first thing we do is water, brush, and let's take out some of the pink. Now this time I'm going to wet the paper, but I'm also going to use the paint with it. Oftentimes we've used it and we've used raw sienna, isn't that right? This time I'm going to use the alizarin crimson. Now I'm going to put a tiny bit, look, just a tiny bit of the raw sienna in. That is just to break down that very strong red colour. You'll see what I mean. Look, you can test it. See that? Have a look at that. Have a quick look at our painting. Yeah, it's pretty close, isn't it? So let's do that. Now, little bit of the raw sienna and plenty of the red. And we want to mix up a good bit because we're going to have to come all the way down almost to the horizon line here this time. And it's all one kind of shade, isn't it? All right, off we go. So brush on as if we're painting the door, back, forward, straight down and yep. And keep going until you run out of paint. Exactly the same as if you had a tin of paint and you had the garage door and you were painting away. I keep repeating that, don't I? But that's a fact, that's all it is. Make it simple. Keep it simple, isn't that it? Yes. We complicate these things and we make them difficult. All right, let me go on again then. 1, 2, 3, right down. Now I'm just looking again, I'm saying, right, where is my horizon line? It's about there. So I need to go pretty close to it this time. So I would have thought to within, maybe 1/4 of an inch. Let's go mad with it. Now, I'm going to put out a little burnt umber because that wash just might need a little tiny tint of it. You'll see what I mean, at the top only. So I'm going to mix a little of the burnt umber with the alizarin crimson. I'm going to give it one go across like that. That's all. That's enough. You need just one fill of the brush, they say. Now, I'm very pleased with that. Let's put the brush away for a moment now. Now, our next move is the moon. This time, let's look and see. Is it the sun? Is it the moon? There's a halo around it. How do we do that? Let's look at it. Okay, we need the moon brush. And of course, you're all familiar now with our moon brush. Our moon brush is our piece of paper, and it's rolled up into a shape like that. Now, be careful. Don't lean on your painting, or of course you'll mark it. So you've got to do this. Look, you put your arm there, put your other arm like this, like a crane. And let's see where on earth this moon is. It's just about there. Take your time with this and just mark it out. Look. You'll probably have a difficulty seeing this because I might be a little bit in the way, but don't worry, I'll keep at it and you'll get it right in a minute. Look, see? And just lean to one side. Can you see that? Now make sure it's fairly round. And it is quite clean. Now look, I've taken a lot of pigment off there. Let me go in again with that. Nice? Now we'll actually let it dry for a tiny bit before we make this little mist around it. How nice? How's that? I think that's lovely, isn't it? Let's give it a second or two, and then we're going to just ever so carefully just give it a little bit outside that, a little bit of mist. Look. It's only a halo around the moon. Oh, the sun. Is it a haze in the sun? See it? Ah, we've got it now. Nice and hazy, isn't it? That's it. We're finished with it now. So in other words, you take it out, then you let it dry a little bit, and then just very slowly, very carefully just go round it a little bit. We can go round it again, as a matter of fact, even when it's dry. So let's dry it. As it dries, it will, of course, lighten. You're right. Now, you can actually take this out when it's dry. It doesn't have to be wet, but it's easier when it's wet. But if you happen to forget or you wanted to do it afterwards because you wanted to let it dry first, that's fine. It's a little more difficult, but it'll work. Now, I'm going to try that again for you, just to show you. I'm probably labouring on this moon brush a little bit, but you like it. And let's go round it just a little tiny bit. Look, I think we could actually dampen it a tiny, tiny bit. Just a tiny bit of water on it. That's all. It's only just the tiniest bit, just to give us. I like to get this hazy effect. Ah, there we are now. That's better. Yes. Isn't that better now? See it? Patience is a virtue. Now we have it. I'm happy with that. Have a little squint at it. That's grand. That's enough about that. What's the next thing? Horizon, sky, middle ground. Back to the picture again. And our middle ground now is here, our mountains. And they go up here. How do we do those? We're back to the old friend, the letter M again. Yes. Now we need a little bit of raw sienna because it's exactly the same as the sky. A little bit of raw sienna and the alizarin crimson. Mix the two together. Now don't make them too dark because these mountains are a long way away and we don't want them overpowering us. How's that? I'm doing this slowly for you now so you can follow me. I presume by now you've got your paints out and you're bashing away at the same speed as I am. Okay, here we go. Look, and down and up again here, and off up into the... I'll make a different shape this time. A different letter M. Now, don't fiddle with it too much. That's it. There we are. That's all we need to do. We dry it a bit now. Now, as I'm drying, I'm hoping that you're getting along at the same speed as I am by now. I'm sure your front room is now full of pictures, is it? Ah, yes. Don't give them away. Sell them. That was one of the first things I was told when I started to paint. If you want somebody to appreciate your work, make them pay for it. So do that. Now, back to the picture again. Okay, again, it's a little more of the raw sienna and the alizarin crimson, but I'm now going, I would say 50-50 or a bit better. Half of each, okay? And let's put in our distant, see it, a little distant hillocks or whatever they are. They're between the mountains and this field that we have in front. That's not water, that's a field. Now just get there, and I'm going to come down slightly. I want to leave a little bit. See that? That's all it is. I'm almost to the horizon line now. That nice? Yeah, let's try that. Now, I'm not going to put any dark paint in there this time because I want to keep it well back. So you see, what I'm trying to show you this time is that you can paint the one picture over and over and over again. Once you change the colour, change the trees about, there's no problem. Well now, yellow. Out with the yellow. What do we want that for? We want it for exactly the middle ground. There's a field in there. So let's take some yellow. And I think we could probably add the tiniest bit of raw sienna to it. It's just to take the yellow look off it. So 90-10. A little more water. Another little bit. There's your 90-10 now. Okay, now this is one swipe, exactly like the water. Brush down flat on the paper and right across. Look at that. I'm not going to bother filling in those little dotty bits there now. Now there's a horizon line there, which of course we can rub out later. You know about that. Our growth line, we call it, remember? Yes, when you're talking to your fellow artist, you'll say, well, this is my growth line, actually. But that can be removed with an eraser after you finish the picture. There's no problem. Now, carrying along now nicely, now we're going to get a little quicker because we've got the main bit in now. Let's come on down now. We've got this little ditch to put in down here. So we're using still the red and mixing it this time with some burnt umber. And let's do it. Oh, dee, dee, dee. Now you can go up into the paint you've already painted, of course. Paint you've already painted. I don't know if that sounds correct. I don't know. Okay. Now look, it's varying shades. Remember, don't make it all the one kind of colour all the way across. Dab it here, dab it there. Now we can go up there. There's a little bit of red. So it's red, raw sienna, and burnt umber. They're your only colours. Going up there. Now we're nearly across now to get at this thing over here. Now how do we do a stand of trees, a bushes? If you don't know it by now, of course you know it by now. Okay, let's do it. Burnt umber and our red. And starting about there, let's get at it. Now we can go a little more red. That wasn't red enough. So, see, it's a study in pink. Remember that. And down we come. Now we're going to put in just almost pure burnt umber now, because we do want to create a nice dark area there, don't we? Because what are we going to do next? A scratching we will go, isn't that it? Yeah. I bet you're right. Have a quick look at the picture and off we go. Look at that. Little scratches. We can cover in a couple if they look a bit over scratched. Clean your finger. Now, that's the left hand side. Let's look at the right. Back with the big brush, out with the little brush, and we're going to go like wildfire on these trees now. There are two of them. One. Now we need plenty of water because, as you know, the little brush doesn't hold very much. But that matters not. Okay, there we are. Up we go. Up into the blue yonder, isn't that it? You'd want to take out pints of water, eh? No, it's not. Just a nice, like a little inkwell, that's all. You're quite at will. And you're permitted to hum, sing, play your music. Enjoy yourself. This is a hobby, the hobby of painting. You'll never have a better one. It's not a serious occupation at all, this painting, and unfortunately that's what we were led to believe that it was. It isn't, of course. We're doing this for fun. Have some more fun, isn't that right? I think we're coming on pretty good there now. We'll have a couple of these things in no time. I'm going to put another one beside it. And this one is about here. So now don't make them like two telegraph poles. You know what I mean by that? Lean one into the picture. That'll bring your eye into the picture. That's right. Yes, of course it will. Look at that. Up we go again. I'm not going to go much higher than that now. I think. Have a look at the picture again. Ah, yeah, that's pretty fair. Now I think we can take a good big one out there somewhere, can't we? I love doing these wobbly ones. You just wobble the brush a little bit. That's all it is. This is not as difficult as it looks at all, is it? We're flying along. Now, We don't want to go across our sun or our moon or whatever you can call it, whatever you like, it doesn't matter. But I'm not going to go across it this time. I'm going to leave it so it's in full view. Right? Now I have to darken a bit of the side of this one here, won't I? Ah, there we are. Great dollop of paint there, isn't that great? Now we're nearly ready to start putting the leaves on this tree, aren't we? You remember how to do those? Of course you do. And look at that. Isn't that a lovely tree now? Yeah. So what more could you ask for? Okay. Big brush. And let's quickly look at the tree, and we see that, lo and behold, what do we need? We need red and brown again. See, it probably would seem ridiculous to you to think that you could paint a picture which was pink. But when we started, we painted one in brown. So why can't we paint a pink one? In fact, it looks lovely. Now, a little bit of dab, 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 dab. Look. Make sure you've got enough paint on the brush when you start and that it's reasonably dry. Reasonably dry. If it's too wet, it just will become blobs on the paper. And you don't want it that. Now, I must be careful. I mustn't go across my little bright area there. I'm just going. Oh, we want to be careful. We don't go. Ah, there we are now. Yes. Now we come down here. We can go mad at it now. When we put a bit of dark in here, because this is the dark side, isn't it? How's it look now? Yes. I think we can probably put a little more. This might be a bit lighter here, would it? And we can make those land. How do you make the trees land? Put a bit of dark underneath them. Look. That's all. Now, what about here? Let's look at the picture. Yep. Now you'll notice there's a gap in the middle. It's where it's shining there. You see it? How do we get that? Let me show you. We're taking some red, naturally, with a little bit of the raw sienna in it. We're getting plenty on the brush, exactly like we did the water. You remember that? Yes, of course you do. Now, put it on the paper. And off you go. And when you get to where you want, you lift it off. And then you rest it down again. So you lift and drop. Do you understand that? I won't go over it again because I'll ruin it. But across, lift, just barely touching it, and down again. That's all it is. And you create this lovely impression that the moon or the sun or whatever it is glowing through the trees. Isn't that lovely? Let's try that. I think these pink studies are beautiful, beautiful. You cover the house in them. You can match them to the wallpaper. You may laugh, but I've been asked to paint pictures to match the wallpaper. Doesn't speak very much for your artistic acumen, but that's what we do. I suppose if they want to match the wallpaper, we'll match it. Now I'm using burnt umber and the alizarin crimson, and we're just making downward strokes. Exactly as we did with the reeds. And I don't want to go across our nice bright spot there because this is in the shade here. Have a look at the picture. You see the trees. They're causing the shade, aren't they? We can have just a little dab here and there like that, okay? But not too much. Now, again, this side should be darkish. So let's do that. Because after all, it is behind the bushes, isn't it? Look, we're coming on well now, aren't we? Now, there's a couple of little things we've got to do still, isn't there? So let's put the big brush away for the moment. And let's go back to the little brush. Now, first and foremost, let's look at our trees again. I would like to do a couple more little twigs on those trees. So I'm using the small brush. I'm just going to extend some of those because I like them to come out of the tree a little bit like that. See that? Just bring it out a little bit. Because now and again the branches do stick out of the tree. The same as I said to you before, they don't only be in the centre and they're not on the outside. There are branches both sides of them. Do you understand what I mean by that? What I mean is that you have leaves surrounding the branches. You don't have all the branches sticking on the outside of the tree. Okay? Don't worry about it. You'll get it eventually. I probably waffle too much, don't I? Okay. Next, back to the picture again. Let's have a little look-see. Now, we have the middle ground here is the only place that there's really any life in this thing at all. And we've got to bring it up here a little bit, and we've got little fences and all that type of thing to do. Let's do that now. Now, you don't have to paint it exactly the same as I am. If yours is a little different here, please don't try and alter it, because you'll do that, you'll make a mistake. What you do is you leave it and say, well, maybe I have another tree there. Do you follow? I don't have to follow that picture. I could go off now and say to myself, all right, let's just show you what I mean. Because there's no fun in just trying to copy exactly the picture. There isn't. You can take a photograph of it. You could make a photocopy of it. Now, let's look. We do have a tree here. You see on the left-hand side here. Well, let us do a different kind of a one. You can do all these things. You can paint, as I say, I painted a dozen of very similar pictures one year for friends of mine as gifts. None of them were the same. I didn't make them the same. But they all look fine. Now I'm coming up here differently. You see, if you look at the picture that was our little model, it wasn't half as big a tree, but this one is. I'm going to be quite large because I'm going to put another. Now there's a lovely little bush. I don't know what make a bush this is, but it's nice. And now you can practice. This is great because what it'll help you to do is, with your small brush, you make all these little adjustments and little twigs and things. Isn't that nice? You could spend all day at this, couldn't you? But don't. No. You mustn't do that. That'll be laboured. Now that's a nice little tree, isn't it? Okay, that's enough of that fella now. Now perhaps we might put just one. See, I'm altering this thing all the time, purposely for you now. I hope you're watching. Now this was the little bush that was in the other side. I'm just going to put it in there. You can see. Now if you take a quick look and see our picture and what we painted, there's a slight difference, isn't there? That tree is bigger. We have an extra one in here, and we have to put in our little poles and things yet. But you see, it's ever changing, and this is great practice. If you do this, and you take a picture that you're used to, and you paint it 5 or 6 times, and you can make little alterations in it, that's the surest way I know to learn to paint. Honestly. Okay, never mind that. Come on, I'm talking too much. Now, the same thing with the camera, by the way. The camera is a wonderful aid, I said, to painting. I don't expect you to go out. I'm just making in our little fence here. Do not go out and paint exact copies or try to of a photograph, because they won't come out that way. Now I think we've got enough there. You don't want to, as we've got an extra couple of trees there, I don't want to clutter the whole thing up with it. So when you get your photograph, what I suggest you do is you turn that into a little sketch. In other words, you take your photograph, you look at it, where's the horizon line? Draw it, draw your mountains, and then paint from that. Now, I'm waffling on here. Okay, let's put another. We've got to put a little fence stick in there. Now don't put them right across, because if you do, it'll look like they're barring you from going into the picture. That's one of the most awful things you can do. So where should I put one more? Will I put it here? Yeah, why not? And then we put that there, and let's come down that way. That nice? Okay. Now, our animation bit. I'm going to put a few birds in this because I feel that it needs a bit of life in it, doesn't it? And there's another one up there. And then, of course, we have our old pal up in this corner here. Did I tell you the story of this? Well, I used to always put a bird in every picture I painted. I did that. And then I stopped. I became big-headed. I said, I don't need a bird in there. I can paint all kinds of things. And somebody rang me and said, Frank, you know, you didn't put the bird in. Would you, if I brought the picture around, would you do it? Anyway, I think we're nearly there now. Let's look at a couple of little squiggles there, and a couple of little squiggles here. And the next thing is, what do we need? We need a little cover. And let's see how we look. So let's look at this thing now and see how did we get on. There we are. So I have to say that that's all for this lesson. I hope you enjoyed it. So try it out and have some more fun.